Your meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So the hour of 4:30 having arrived, I'd like to call the Police and Fire Commission for the City of Fitchburg to order. We do have a quorum. It looks like we have 4 members present, one being excused. Jeff Standiford has to be excused. I think the first thing I'd like to do, I thought of this last week, with it being Veterans Day last Monday. I think it is fitting that we, honor veterans and have a moment of silence for those who have served in the past and are currently serving. So with that in mind, let's, honor them with a moment of silence, please. Thank you, everyone. I'm sure all of us have a number of veterans, family, or friends that we can think of, so it is nice to honor them. Appreciate their service. Second order of business is approval of minutes. Is there a motion? Okay, Rosa moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, any discussion or corrections? If not, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Jim? I didn't. Okay. All right. The next would be, are there any public appearances or non-agenda items that people want to bring up? Okay, next is the report from the police department, staffing report. Nope, you're on mute, Sarah.
I'll share my screen if that's okay. I'm just going to bring up the staffing reports so you can see those. So one moment.
While Sarah's doing that, I will say good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. In regards to police department staffing, nothing has changed, I think, from last month's report. We're still looking at 1 person in the law enforcement academy at Blackhawk Tech. They have had a couple of pauses due to COVID-19 issues at the academy. So right now we're looking at a graduation date of, remains tentative, unfortunately, as always, of December 9th. So hopefully that will continue to stay on track here, but we have had a couple of instances where they've had to hit pause at that academy. So once Matt Cooper is the officer that's there, once he completes the academy, he'll begin field training soon thereafter. We have 2 officers who are currently on leave or restricted duty, one of which is on a medical leave and one is on a military leave that's going to last well into next year, which leaves us with a total of 3 patrol positions. While they are filled from a payroll perspective, they are not filled from a physical presence on the street. And you can see the other information that's normally there. Any questions about the staffing report?
Chief, one question.
Rosa?
My question is, how is this impacting the officers in the street and what they're doing? Not having 2 officers?
Well, obviously, if we had the additional officers available, then, would help increase our coverage on the street. Might allow for more proactive activity from the officers from an outreach perspective or problem solving perspective and those sorts of things. But, ultimately we try to build in a shift relief factor, so to speak, in to our scheduling. So, it's really a rare situation where we have no patrol positions unfilled from a variety of perspectives, whether it's due to leaves, through medical or FMLA. Military, or just a vacancy that we're in the process of filling. So we start creeping this number up, then it clearly gets a bit more challenging and concerning. And I think early on when we started this report, we were up near, I want to say 9 officers might have been, or 9 patrol spots unfilled might have been where we had peaked at one point in time, and I certainly hope that we don't get anywhere near that in the future. But hopefully that answers your question.
Any other questions?
A question,
Tom?
Chief. We've got the number of retirement age individuals and there were 5 in 2020. Are you getting any insight from any of them or any prospects that retirement is on the horizon?
Yes, one of those 5 has indicated that they intend to retire in 2021. So right now we're looking at kind of a spring retirement, late winter, early spring retirement is what's tentatively planned based on the communication that they've had with me. Obviously that could change. I don't anticipate the date will be extended, but it certainly could be come sooner than what's currently planned. But other than that, I've not heard of any of the other 4 who have immediate plans, or at least have announced immediate plans or come in to visit me with their plans. But, you know, recognizing that they're all retirement age eligible, they could walk in tomorrow and mention that they're going to retire in 2 weeks. So it's definitely something we're paying attention to, which again is one of the reasons why we put it on this report, is so that it helps both me and the PFC and HR take a look at some of our demographic information, case age, which may forecast staffing needs, hiring processes, and those sorts of things.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions on staffing? If not, let's go to the somebody make a motion for the closed session following the statute there. Read it and we'll vote on it.
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Make the motion, please. Thank you.
Okay, move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 (1) of the Wisconsin statutes. The commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically to make employment recommendations for police officer.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Tom seconds. All those in favor of going to closed session signify by saying aye and kind of raise your hand so that it's on screen anyways, we know.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so it's unanimous. So we'll be waiting for them to let us know from PAC TV that when we're closed. Are there any motions or actions? Rosa?
One motion from the police regarding to accept the recommendation of the police chief to extend a conditional officer to one of the candidates contingent to successful completion of the several conditions like the background investigation, the medical and psychological evaluation, drug testing, and the ride-alongs.
And second for the motion.
Second.
Okay, Tom seconds. Okay, any other discussion? If not, thank you for, Sarah and Chad for your work on there. Let's vote to approve the recommendation. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, so now, the other thing I wanted to cover in open session is that I may need to be excused temporarily if the meeting is not done by 5:30, and that I have 2 meetings, and one of which Rosa will step in my place if I need to step away, but I will be here. So thank you. Next is report from the fire department.
Joe, would you like me to share your staffing report? I'm gonna share it. I'm guessing he does.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to unmute.
There you go.
There we go.
Go ahead, Chief. So the staffing report, not a lot of change as far as what you saw last time. We did have one individual present a letter of resignation on the part-time or paid-on-call staff. That is going to be presented to you next meeting. And then I have one item that we'll be discussing in closed session. Other than that, I mean, a lot of what we're trying to do from a training standpoint has been delayed, and it's been even more difficult training as a department with the restrictions imposed as far as public gathering. So we're trying to do what we can virtually. We are taking care of a lot of administrative stuff during this time, but we're running out of administrative things, and the hands-on is obviously equally as important as anything that we do didactically. So that is something that we're addressing from overall readiness standpoint. The call volume is what it is. It's a little bit lower than it was last year, but I think one of the issues that we see with this pandemic is the overall impact it has with readiness. I mean, there's a lot of things happening, not just inside the department, but outside as far as family and everything else. So there's a lot that goes into the preparation and into the constant bombardment of things that happen with every potential exposure from an on-call basis. So I think a lot of places are dealing with this. We're no different. It's just consistent in our regard. From a personnel standpoint, one of the things that we tried to get approved this year is 3 lieutenants promotions. It is something that has been on our books since before I was hired. We are trying to identify ways within the budget to make that work. Initially, we thought it was funded. We found out that it wasn't. So those are some things that we are trying to address from an overall staffing standpoint and a preparation and preparedness standpoint. I mean, one of the things that we don't necessarily appreciate on the departmental level is when the city can afford certain positions, and trying to get some of that information over the next year or so, so that as the city grows, services are increasing at a similar rate. And it's not just the fire department, it's not just the police department, it's every department. So to have a plan in place to be able to express the needs of the city and do so responsibly, so that once again we can afford the response. The overall feeling with that is just there's a lot of work being done that people aren't necessarily within their job description. They're beyond their job description from a supervisory standpoint. And that's why we were trying to address that with the promotions. So if you saw some of that throughout the budget and you were wondering what that all meant, I would be more than happy to discuss that. We are trying to follow the national standard as far as just the scope that people are able to practice their skills. We do have a large number of firefighters reporting to one lieutenant. So from a span of control standpoint, we're pushing it. We have pushed it. We're beyond it. So I think I'll stop there because I could go on for a while, and I don't know that this is the place that we're going to solve that.
Yeah, Tom has a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. So a question specific to that, and then 2 others. So I noticed in this report that we're looking at now, the number of regular lieutenants authorized in the past has been 6, and now it's 3, I think.
Yep. So initially, when I started, the number of authorized lieutenants was 12. We had 3 full-time paid career lieutenants, and then we had 9 paid on call. So in order to make the transition, because the 3 career lieutenants had been identified through a staffing study. In order to make that happen, we had made adjustments to our roster so that we didn't overstaff that position. To me, that didn't make any sense, and I was trying to address that from an overall budgetary standpoint, basically responsible business practices. So we addressed the overall organizational chart, and then in trying to get the three promotions, that's where we ran into a hiccup with the budget. And don't necessarily know how to best explain that other than the fact that we just didn't have enough money citywide. So it has been something that we have presented for the past 3 years. It'll be something that I continue to present from a need basis. And the intent isn't necessarily just to continually push something out there because somebody said no. This is a situation where I am trying to just make sure people are aware of the fact that the need has not gone away. And it's just a constant effort of educating from a staffing standpoint. Now, the standards that I'm following are from the NFPA, from ICMA, and then just looking at some of the things that have been set up through ISO and some other regulatory agencies. So I'm not just saying this because of the fact that I want to have more people promoted. I'm addressing this from basically what we would be evaluated against if we were ever called into question as far as why we don't have the amount of leadership in our department.
Go ahead.
So follow-up question. So did the Common Council in the budget process take away your, I understand they didn't fund them, but did they take away your authorization to have those 3 additional positions? I'm just curious, I guess, why it changed on our chart showing, authorized headcount.
So I don't know how, so we issued this staffing report. The thing that I can say about that is right now,
Reviews of what needs to happen as far as staffing levels and whatnot.
yeah, so actually the staffing level that we are presenting was actually first presented with the study from the Ethical Leaders in Action, which is not a fire department based organization. It's more along the lines of city management. It was a study that was put into place by Mayor Pfaff. The study came back with the recommendation for the amount of promotions that we are presenting. So that's already out there. We can do studies all day long and it'll come back similarly. Or we can address what we're going to do from a preparedness standpoint and putting people into those positions and seeing how we can ultimately make that happen. There have been things that we have done to adjust our budget, and it's been a tough budget. I'm not going to put any of that past the difficulty of decision making, but the fact of the matter is we have adjusted things as well on our end to try to accommodate the number of promotions that really are indicated as being necessary.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I guess it'd be the next item B, which is going to closed session. We need to have a motion and a vote.
Okay,
Okay,
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 paren 1 paren B of the Wisconsin statutes. The commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, to discuss the suspension of a paid on-call firefighter.
okay, motion, is there a second? Okay, Tom, second, raise his hand for a second. Okay. All those in favor of closed session, raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in closed session.
Just for the record, we discussed two personnel issues regarding two paid on-call fired fighters. One is was suspended because of a suspended license, but he got an occupational license. He probably will be ready to come back as soon. And the second situation has to do with the another firefighter with some legal issues that are being worked out, and the employment attorney is involved, and the fire chief will keep us posted with regard to that situation. That's, Tom, are you gone or you're back?
Yeah, I'm gonna be out for a couple minutes. I'll be on screen, but I'm trying to converse with the commission.
Okay. The next issue on the agenda is the discussion and adoption of the PFC rules and regulations. So are we gonna discuss this on this? Sarah, I don't know, I mean, you talked to Tom about it.
Yeah, okay, so we are at the point now where it's final unless any of the commission members have any feedback. What I can do is bring up the PFC rules and regs. I'm gonna share my screen just one moment. And so if there are any final changes that you would like to make, we can do that. Otherwise, we're ready to adapt them. So I'm just gonna kind of page through so, you know, we have all of our changes reflected and accepted through this document.
The one I have a comment was page 210, 2.1, the appointment of police and fire chief.
Okay.
Not the last meeting, because I was not there, the one before, I remember we talked about this regarding the second paragraph where it says an individual will assume the role, and I think we I brought that up, and it's specified that it will be the assistant chief that will assume the role of interim chief, not, and that's specified in the job description. So I wonder if it's okay to say it's going to be the assistant chief.
I'm wondering if anyone recalls, I think that we had interim chief in there and we didn't put the assistant in the case that the assistant didn't want to take the interim role, but maybe
I thought that Tom checked the job description of the assistant chief, and it says that they will. I don't know, Tom, do you remember? Tom,
it definitely is in the job description that they will, you know, basically they fill in for the chief when they're out type of deal.
So why will they have the option of not doing that if that is part of their job?
Yeah, we can certainly put that in there. I'm trying to recall if any other members remember why we didn't put the assistant there and we just put interim.
I think one of the things we brought up as a potential scenario would be is what if there was a situation in which both the chief and deputy police chief were involved in some allegation of misconduct, either together at the same time or, you know, individually, but yet at the same time, that would potentially preclude the desire to put the deputy police chief automatically in that role. I would agree that, you know, in the vast majority of situations, it is likely that the deputy police chief would be the one that moves into a role on the police side in the event of a vacancy at the police department or the police chief level. But I think that was written this way to allow some flexibility for unforeseen circumstances to pop up.
It's not a big deal. I just think an individual is so out there, like hanging out there, like anybody could be, when we know it's not anybody that could be. And we do have things in place already for that process. So,
Well, let me give you an example, Rosa, that may help with that individual side of things is I can think of a situation, it's been a little bit ago, but when a neighboring police department had a vacancy at its police chief role, what they elected to do is hire a consultant to fill that police chief role. I don't know if it was sworn or non-sworn. I don't have the details at that point in time, but they did elect to hire a consultant to act as the police chief or certainly as the agency leader in an interim period while they determined what they were going to do to fill the police chief vacancy that they now had. So I think that's a situation where the word individual would, obviously again provide that flexibility for the PFC depending upon the variety of unforeseen or unanticipated circumstances that could ultimately arise. I mean, clearly, I hope to never put the commission in that position that they're searching for someone other than the deputy police chief or putting the deputy police chief in that role. But there's a lot of things that can happen.
okay,
I would concur with that because I've seen that in play. Green Bay, De Pere, Menominee Falls, they have all addressed the vacancy with a consultant that did two things. They not only led the department from a public safety standpoint, but then were also able to provide comment as far as what would be needed in the next leader. So they used it as a consulting and a leadership proposition.
I get it. Any other comments or regarding any of the rules? Nothing?
Has anyone had any public comment? I know we had an open comment period at our last meeting with the opportunity for the public to comment on it. We didn't have any appear. I haven't heard anything individually.
I haven't had anyone reach out.
Okay, so what is the process as for us to adopt these rules? Just voting? Do we need a motion?
I'll move to approve the Fitchburg Police and Fire Commission rules and regulations as proposed.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion to adopt the new PFC rules was made and second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the rules are adopted. And Tom seems to be back. Are you back, Tom?
Partially. I apologize. It's a little bit harder. It's harder being involved in two meetings than I thought, especially when you have to talk.
Okay. Then
I apologize.
Okay.
So the next item is next item is the Tom O'Day's report on his training that he took from the League of Municipalities.
Tom, could I just comment on the one last thing on the rules and regs that was just passed?
Okay, go ahead.
Could I suggest to the commission to request Sarah share that information with the council that it has now passed and provide that copy to them just so that they are aware?
And then in addition to that, Chad, I think we should also have that forwarded to the respective labor organizations. So from the police and firefighters associations.
Yep, sounds good.
Absolutely, I will do, Chad.
Thank you. Sarah, will you include me in that email to the council that, then I'll just share that email in addition to the rules and regs with the association rep.
You bet. I'll CC you and Joe.
Thank you.
So I'd be happy to just give a little detail about the League of Municipalities training that I attended late last week. Overall, just a wonderful orientation type event and training. It was held virtually. The discussion centered around the Police and Fire Commission jurisdiction, Police and Fire Commission process with respect to discipline. A large majority was spent on how the hearing process itself works, both technically and process driven, but also practically from an attorney's perspective. That was very helpful with those practical insights on how the statutory language and process is filled out in reality. And then the League of Municipality Attorneys also spoke on public meetings, open records type issues that were generally of assistance as well. So I had asked if we could share the presentations that were given at the conference and still exploring potential for that. But I guess I'd recommend to anyone who has not yet attended that, put it on our calendar as soon as possible if we can't pull the materials together for our members, and would recommend it for future members as they join the commission as well.
I was going to say, thanks, Tom, for that report. It was 4 years ago that I went, and it is helpful to get that training. It is helpful to have the book. It is helpful to have, Bill, because it's a little bit harder when you have, virtual meetings to actually connect up with people. But I did have, if you can, in another year, hopefully everybody will be meeting in person again, because that is more productive. And again, it's too bad that it's 6 months that a person is on before they get, the training, which then kind of gets into the next item I think we want to have Tom cover. Anything else on the report for the PFC training?
I did ask, and I'll work with Sarah and Tom and just let people know about potential for access to the materials going forward. Because Tom, to your point of waiting 6 months for an in-person event, they now have it recorded. And I don't know, and I've asked the extent to which that recording can be made available for new commission members in April or May, whenever they start, for a fee, of course, for the league, but because it would be helpful on the front end as well.
Yeah, no, I think it is really good to have as much information to new people as we can give them, and they're fully aware of what they need to know so that they can hit the ground running when they start. Do you want to cover I appreciate the fact that the next item, which is number 8 on the agenda, which is Tom wrote up proposed training and orientation for new members. Do you want to cover that, Tom?
Sure. So no real magic here. Just as I started becoming acclimated with the role of the PFC and the jurisdiction and responsibilities that we have as commissioners, I put together my own binder of sorts with materials, reference materials that I would find helpful and have found helpful. I thought it may be something that would be helpful for future commissioners as well. Tom was great in sitting down with me and at the beginning and just running through an overall orientation as well to the Police and Fire Commission. This is a list of documents that I have thought might be of assistance for new members as they come in, and for continuing members as well as a reference point, either an electronic binder or certainly something that people could print out. Again, no magic to it. So to the extent that there are other things that you all have found helpful, or if you think there are other things that would be helpful, we can certainly add to it, and hopefully it can be a resource for our future colleagues in future commissions.
Any thoughts? I mean, I really appreciate this, Tom, from the standpoint of to making sure that any new commissioners or anybody who's appointed to city government knows about open record law, open meeting law, about our emails and texts being public when it relates to, basically city business. So I think it's a good list. We can discuss, what order we want all these items, but I think, having some sort of, something we can give new commissioners so that they know, and current commissioners have, that information as well will be helpful. So we'll get to Rosa.
Well, now that we're talking about training, I've been interested in that, but I've always feel like it would help me a lot. And now that Tom O'Day is here, maybe he could just take care of this for me. Anyway, the issue of discipline, which I think to me it's so important that we understand exactly all the nuances about that. And I don't know if we could put together, for a better term, like a mock trial or something, where we have discuss a case. It could be a fake case for all I care, but that's so we have very clear all the steps, what's involved when we get an issue with a disciplinary case, and the law firm that I wasn't aware we have a law firm. How do they get involved? What triggers them getting them involved? And all those things that to me are still, we have them in the rules, but I think in a practical sense are not very clear. So I don't know if that's something, and I know we talked before about having little training sessions from time to time for our members. And this is one area that I would love to see us coming together to have.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn with that comment because I understand what you're saying, Rosa, but it's also very important to have the chiefs to have, okay, but it fits the pattern of other, what's proper as far as, okay, yeah, some agencies might have an oral reprimand for something, whereas others, have a written, those, you started to get into those nuances and some of the cultures, things, and there really needs to be, there's so many cultural issues there that they're important to know. But I hear what you're saying. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where the right balance, because our job is not, it's to review what that is, or what that discipline is. Not necessarily that we do it. So, Tom?
And Rosa, I thought of that same thing today as I was looking over the materials. And if I recall, I think there's been one due process hearing or fair hearing in the last 5 years or so. And I wondered the extent to which Back TV caught that hearing, because I believe those are held in open meetings. And I wonder if there's literally a visual record of a hearing that's actually occurred either in Fitchburg or in another community that has a similar mechanism for recording open government meetings, where we could look to for how a process works. And to Tom's point, it may be different by municipality or culturally, but just to see how that process works, I think that would be helpful. I do agree. Although it sounds like it's a fairly rare circumstance. And even at the municipality training on Friday, they said it is a very rare circumstance where you have one of those hearings, but obviously so public and so significant of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of this is that I think in a number of cases where there have been people that have been, basically discharged or terminated, it was with cause, and it was just really, the chief made that decision, and it's supported, obviously, because the person wasn't going to challenge it. If it had been a challenge, then that would be where the process would have come. So.
Well, and I'm not interested in knowing about a particular case necessarily. It's just the steps, the process, what happens when, if, that kind of training, I think will be very important for me, rather than waiting till we have a situation and then where do I go, who do I talk to? Last year we had a situation where someone was calling several members of the commission, and it wasn't clear to me at that time if I should have talked to that guy And he kept calling and calling and calling. So,
That may be a good one to, I can check with with our, attorney to see what can be talked about that one or not. There were a number of things there. I thought, well, why is this coming to the PFC?
right, but I'm just saying, those are those, and I don't think we're violating, I don't know, maybe Tom, you could tell me if we're violating any open record laws or emails or communications by just informing ourselves of a process, because that's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. How about this, Rosa? If Sarah and I get together and we try to figure out something, run by you, because it's not having a situation where there's quorum, that kind of thing, come up with some ideas so that you've got a comfort level. Because I do think it is good so that people know, that is why that book is there. The legal modalities books for police and fire commissions is to kind of help you go through that. It's just that, it's, and thank goodness is rare. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that, the hiring process and the background check process and everything is in place, which it is. The chiefs do a good job on that. So we want to make, disciplinary actions rare, and, or that where we have to take action. But on the other side, which is what you're saying, is you want to be prepared to make sure we're doing it right. So.
Thing that I would recommend is a case study. And there have been different police and fire commission hearings throughout the state. Typically, they come from the outside. It's not typically internal discipline. It's the hearings that take place because of a case that has been brought to the city against a public safety employee. So, Sarah, I think one of your best spots to start would be CIVMIC, to see if they have any case study and how that plays out. I know that Wauwatosa is going through something similar right now that's ending in basically the resignation of a police officer. And that may be one case study that you can look at.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
I'll also take Tom O'Day's recommendation too. I'll see what I can find for a due process that maybe was taped virtual from another municipality. It's a really great idea. And then I can share that with the whole team just by emailing it out, and then everyone can watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to thank everyone. I apologize again that I had to kind of cut out of, one of those things, but, this was a little bit longer meeting than usual, but with good reason, and truly appreciate everyone input. I really appreciate, it took us a lot longer to do our rule revision than, I think we initially had planned, but I think we did it properly. I think, this is one of those things that once a year we're going to, do a check-in to say, what do we need to, look in? Do we bring it up for revisions based on what statutory changes and whatnot may have happened? So I think, I want to thank everyone for your efforts on there. I know both, the chiefs and all the commissioners and Sarah, everybody chipped in to make it a better rules. With it passing, Sarah, are you going to have a cover letter for us to kind of document it so
There's
that we?
Yep, there's on page, at the last page, there's a spot for signatures. So I think typically the president has been the one to sign it. So I think it just needs the one, but we can always add others.
I'll do that. I know the last one had both the president and the vice president. I think
Okay.
Mark signed it as well.
Yep, then we'll need you and Rosa's signature. So I'll probably just pass that around to you virtually.
Well, thank you. So in the tough time of COVID, I appreciate the fact that we're able to do this and do the best we can considering the circumstances. So wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I guess we do need to have a motion. First of all, I should I'm looking at the agenda. Are there any other announcements? Okay, with none, is there a motion to adjourn? Rosa removes. I guess I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Thanks everyone again. Be safe.